Namaste, my name is Bhakti. Welcome to my channel. We are going to do fudgy brownies today. They're chocolate filled, decadent, and they'll melt in your mouth. बहुत ही ट्रायल एंड एरर के बाद आई मेड दिस ब्राउनी रेसिपी विच इज़ फेल प्रूफ। और राखी बांधने के बाद जैसे ही मैंने अपने भाइयों को ये बाइट दिया, they went gaga over it. So next time you're gonna have kids over or a friend's party, if you bake this, it's gonna be a super hit. So let's get to the recipe quickly. So the number one hack is so cutting edge, you're not gonna believe it. We're gonna start with lining the baking trays, and काफ़ी बार हम ये mistake करते हैं that we just cut out a rectangle and try to stuff the baking tray with that paper. So first you take the outline of your mold and then very easily just cut the sides. So once you cut the edges and place the parchment paper inside the mold, it's gonna give you a very crisp edge. Let's go nuts for hack number 2. And for the nuts, we all love walnuts in our brownie. Now what I've done is I've taken almonds and walnut for the brownie, but I'm gonna roast them. Roasting them gives a added bit of nuttiness to the soft brownies. Spread it out evenly on your oven tray. I'm gonna keep it in the preheated oven at 180 degrees Celsius for around 15 minutes. Make sure that your nuts don't burn, they just turn little reddish, that's all.
Pardon?
Make sure that your nuts don't burn, they just turn little reddish, that's all.
Oh shit, don't put that. So once the nuts are roasted, let's take them off, and as they cool off a little, we can just roughly chop them. I keep the pieces a little bigger so that whenever you take a bite, you can actually feel the crunch of the nuts. So once all the pre-preparation is done, now let's move on to making the batter. For the batter, I've kept this container with water. I've kept this water for boiling because we're going to use a double boiler method. So here comes hack number 3. I'm going to be using butter, but this is unsalted butter. Now the reason that we use unsalted butter is so that it gives us control in the recipe to add the amount of salt later. Let the butter melt properly over the double boiler. Now once the butter has melted, I'm going to add castor sugar to this. And brown sugar. So hack number 4 is you don't use just one type of sugar. एक से भले दो. So let's use 2 types of sugar. Now castor sugar's crystals are a little smaller than a regular sugar, but a little larger than the powdered sugar. It helps in dissolving the sugar a little more quickly, and at the end you won't get a crystal sugar in the bite. So you know your sugar and sweetness is evenly distributed. Whereas the brown sugar, again its texture is similar to castor sugar, but it has a little bit of molasses in it and it has a deeper taste to it. So both the sugars are important to bring out the balance in the final product. And another advantage of brown sugar is that it will keep the brownie moist for a longer time. It will make the brownie softer in texture. Now make sure you get off all the butter and everything off the spatula at this point. Next we are going to add milk. It's a good amount of milk in it. And some water. So this keeps the hydration level of brownie a little high. You know, if we replace the water with milk, then the brownie will become too much denser. It'll be too dense to bite into. So I have used both milk and water, and now we've shifted from the spatula to a whisk. So it's easier to mix and emulsify. So now comes the part which gives this brownie its intense flavor, which is the chocolate. Now hack number 5 is don't be stingy with chocolate. And just to balance the Indian palate, I have used a combination of dark and milk both. Trust me, it works wonders and brings in the amazing balance, which is the milk chocolate, a sweetness of milk chocolate and a little bit of bitterness of the dark chocolate. So we are going to add chocolate amount equal to the flour that we are going to use in the brownie. So now you know why they are chocolate loaded brownies. So now that the chocolate has melted, I'm going to add cocoa powder to this. Now this is the final step before we take off the bowl from the double boiler. So this is where the whisk comes in handy, so that your cocoa powder mixes up really well and there are no lumps. Now we've taken it off the double boiler and let it cool a little bit. We're going to add the flour. Make sure the flour is sifted really well. You can even add flour in 2 to 3 batches if that gets easier for you to fold in. Okay, so now once the flour is mixed up really well, look at the consistency of this batter. Make sure there are no lumps, no flour lumps or no crystals that you can see from sugar or anything. It's really well mixed. And now finally we'll be adding the roasted nuts to it. Let's fold in the roasted nuts. Okay, so hack number 7, don't forget to add a little bit of salt. Now I know it's a dessert, but salt is a flavor enhancer and it balances out the taste. So don't forget the salt. Now to make sure that all the brownies have an even texture and even size, we're going to weigh the batter that we're going to put in each mold. Another benefit of having the same size and same weight in each mold is that they're all going to get baked at the same time, same temperature. If you're going to keep one mold which has a little more batter, the other one a little less, then both are going to need different time of baking. Now we can just place it on the baking tray. Now the crucial next hack for this brownie is the baking time and temperature, of course. We had preheated the oven and we're going to bake these brownies for 35 minutes at 180 degrees Celsius. Now the more important thing to know about this is even after the baking is done, the timer comes to 0. Let your brownie rest in this warm oven for the next 15 minutes so that the process of cooking over continues. This is a very crucial step I have realized. If in case you're using a different kind or different size of oven, then I would suggest that you do a little bit of trial and error and check out the time. Of course, start with a little lesser time. What has worked for me is that overcooking process. So for 35 minutes you let it bake. Once it's just warm enough, let the brownies be in the warm oven. So now that the brownies are done in the oven, I'm going to keep them in the fridge for at least 1 hour before I start piping ganache on it. So the simplest way to present your brownie would be with ganache, of course. And just like we've added both dark chocolate and milk chocolate in the brownie, I'm going to make dark chocolate ganache and milk chocolate ganache. The method remains the same and it's a very easy method to follow. So let's get started. First, I'm going to take some cream in a microwave safe bowl. Make sure you use dairy cream and not any other. So I'm going to just warm up the cream a bit. So until the cream is getting heated up, warmed up, I'm going to weigh in chocolate. Now the chocolate is going to be double the amount of cream that we're going to use. Now that the cream has warmed up, let's add it to the chocolate. If you're using a chocolate bar, make sure the chocolate is finely chopped so that it's easier to melt it. No worries if it's not melted properly. You can put it in the microwave for another 10 to 20 seconds. 10 to 20 seconds at a time. Don't keep it for like a minute or so. Follow the same process for the milk chocolate ganache. Okay, now that the ganaches are ready, let's put them in the piping bag and keep them ready for piping. Don't worry if you've made extra ganache, you can always store it and reuse it the next time. So we've come to the final part of the presentation. Now you can decorate the brownie. You could choose to keep it plain. I am going to use sugar cookie and I have cut them with a flower shaped cookie cutter. If you want the full recipe for these sugar cookies, check out the next video on this channel. Now let's start presenting the brownie. So here's the brownie. It's baked, it has rested well, and now it's ready to be piped with some ganache and decorated with some cookie flowers. So see how easily it comes out. Yeah. So it's an eggless brownie with a lovely crinkle top. Let's start decorating. So now that it has been loaded with the chocolate ganache, I'm now going to add the cookies to it. Let me know how you like this recipe and do share and subscribe. And let me know what other recipes you want to see on this channel. Until then, bye.